I'm having a cheeky Galaxy now before we start.
I don't even know what that is.
What, Galaxy?
Yeah.
It's weird. It's a bit like, because I know like American chocolate is different to British chocolate at this point, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is like a bit closer to American chocolate, I think. It's like, it's smoother, maybe a bit waxier.
Yeah. What's in it? Is it like
I don't know. It's just solid chocolate, I think.
just solid chocolate? That's it? Yeah. We have all our chocolate kind of sucks. It's gotten way worse over time. Like, I remember
I
any
know.
time we get anything like, there's some places, some record stores that like
Hmm.
actually sell like, chocolate from like the UK and stuff. And it's like, whoa, I forgot what chocolate tastes like, you know?
Yeah.
It's
I bet
the
there's like
shit. Yeah.
so many additives and
So
preservatives that they
many.
stuff inside this stuff, man. It might as well be genetically modified at this point.
I know, right? It doesn't taste real anymore and stuff. It's really gross. But Daniel, welcome to the Chocolate Podcast here, um, where we discuss sweets. Now I'm
Yeah.
joined here by Daniel Lucas of the UK thrash metal band Thrasherwolf. Very, very sick. I feel like UK thrash isn't as represented, and I find that to be kind of a shame. Because American thrash, everyone's looking at American thrash. There's so many up and coming thrash metal bands over here in the US, and I think Thrasher Wolf is so fucking badass. The riffs are great, all the material's great and holds up. And like
Thank you so
even
much.
with what you guys have gone through, like even the very early stuff, I think is like pretty well produced and everything. And I'm really happy to have you here. Do you agree with what I'm saying here? That UK thrash is very, very like not represented.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because you always hear so much about the big four of thrash in America, the big four of thrash in Germany. It's very rare you hear anyone really talk about the big four of thrash in the UK. Bands like Acid Rain, Sabbath, Zentrix, and oh god, they're going to rip the shit out of me now for forgetting the fourth one. Onslaught.
Onslaught.
Honestly, I love Onslaught so absolutely so much. I wear their merch, their t-shirts. I know one of the guitarists as well. Um, I'd say out of the four bands, I think it's Onslaught that gets me most excited. But yeah, you're completely right. The representation for UK thrash just isn't there for the rest of the world. But I feel like with the amount of talent that's coming out of the UK right now, bands like Exhaust and Hellfected, Blacklist, and loads of other thrash metal bands out there, Halberd. There's so many good UK thrash metal bands. The talent, what we're producing, will show exactly what the UK thrash is made of to the rest of the world, especially when we get out there touring in places like Germany. I know we've our highest streaming numbers are from the US right now, so we really want to come over and smash some inside the Sickened Mind with you guys.
Would be awesome, man. Just got to get those visas. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. In terms of the big four of UK thrash, that's who you think it is. Like Zentrix, Acid Rain, Onslaught, and Sabbath. You think those are like
Uh,
the big four?
I
Absolutely.
think those are the big four. I mean, I think that's technically what it is because I looked it up not too long ago. I think so. There is a technical big four of UK thrash metal. I think
Yeah, because I know like Slammer is a big one over there too. That's like
they're a
from the
massive one.
80s. Massive,
Yeah,
massive. So yeah.
they sort of came back from the 80s, I think, though. So as well as like bands like Toranaga, who was sort of doing the 80s thrash metal stuff back then. You had other bands like Virus, and there were quite a few, but it's where the bands take a break for a long time and then suddenly come back. It's like they have to build the momentum straight from the beginning all over again. And it was difficult enough starting the momentum the first time,
Yeah.
let alone, let,
Try being
let
60
alone
doing it. Yeah.
exactly, yeah. Let alone being tired and knackered and
Yeah.
just retiring and all that sort of stuff. You're like, oh God, no. You know what? Screw it. We've still got our youth in there. We're still gonna do it. But but
Yeah, for
they're,
sure.
they're really smashing it at the moment. Bands like Slammo and we played with Toranaga when we played Acid Rain's very special Christmas show last December.
Heard it was great.
Um, and it was fan. absolutely fantastic. The room was absolutely packed. There were pits everywhere, and it one of the one of the occasions I'd say my crowd control was on top form. Uh, it was like it was one of those crowds that didn't want to pit at first. I don't know what it's like over there in America, whether they pit really easily to stuff
Pretty easily,
or
yeah.
any sort of because I've realized that certain types of audiences will have certain types of reactions, and sometimes it is geographical. Weirdly enough, like out of a London crowd, you're going to get a lot of excitement, but it's not always the case when you go elsewhere in England. So as we went to Birmingham, I realized, okay, for the first three bands, the crowd just weren't moving, and I was like, you know what, I'm not quite comfortable with this. So throughout the entire show, I went, come on, guys, give us just spin around in a circle for me, please, come on. Uh, but we got to the last song, which we planned to be GBH, which I think it's become a really good staple closing song of ours, just because
Great
it's
track.
a bit of a yeah, it's one of my personal favorites. Um, and I just went right. I want to teach you all how to do a fucking circle pit. And so I did that. I did that. And I said, you start running around in a circle. Now, all the rest of you join it. Yeah, that's it. Just keep it going. Just keep it going. That's it. Right. Now, when I say to do that, when we play the next song, do it. Listen to what I say. Okay. And we're not going to start the next song until you try it once more. Come on, guys. And they just, when you give them the ultimatum, either we play or we don't, they'll listen because they want to enjoy this show just as much as you do.
Yeah, I've seen that a couple times where the frontman's like, "Hey, man, like, let's just get this fucking shit going." All right.
Yeah.
Here in Boston, it's so interesting to hear about that because I guess it is true. Like, crowds are a lot different. Here in Boston, the crowd moshes during sound check. Like, we're fucked up over here. Like, we're really crazy. But yeah, I guess there are a couple shows I have been to where it's like, "Hey, guys, let's get this thing going." And sometimes it's all it takes, and then everyone goes, "Yeah, let's." This is
Yeah.
way better. You know.
Yeah.
So really,
But
really great to see, man. And I do want to talk about some of the band's history. So and kind of get the timeline right here. So the band formed in college. Is that correct? When you were in college?
yeah, that's the one. I wouldn't say the band formed in college. It was more the concept for the band started in college. I was toying around with different names. I was always that nerdy, arty kid who in the corner who was just sort of like doodling away on some sort of artwork. And I thought, these could be some cool album pieces. I was toying around with names like at one point it's going to be Metal Moon or something like that, like a really traditional sort of like Iron Maiden esque sort of metal band. And I was thinking, not quite so
Get
much.
into
And I
the
was like,
Wolf theme, though.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I was like, what about Blood Moon? That could work. I was like, I looked online, some random band with three followers had that on Bandcamp, and I was like, right, I can't have that now. Intellectual property. I was like, right, what's cool? What sells? What's going to be cool image wise? And I was like, wolves. Everyone does wolves. Has Wait, Thrash hasn't been done with wolves yet. Oh my god! I've just found the niche. And I was like, okay, let's form. Okay, so thrash, like we're gonna do thrash. So thrash wolf. No, that doesn't quite work. Thrasher, what? Yeah, thrash wolf. Okay, right, we got it sorted. And
Awesome.
that's pretty much how that's the name came about.
Yeah. So you were saying you were like kind of drawing, doodling and stuff. Did you like make the logo, or did you have a
The
guy do that?
the first logo that we had, which was on our first album and the first singles, the Vortex,
Yeah.
Good Old Fashioned Violence, and We Are Revolution.
Hmm.
I designed that logo myself. Again, it was it looks rushed, not very on point, so to speak. Definitely doesn't follow the ratio that you need to follow when it comes to drawing logos and stuff like that. But it got to about what 2021, and we realized, we need to be looking a bit more professional than what we were. So we hired, I think, someone called Eisengrind, an amazing artist who does logos, art, all that sort of stuff. And they were toying around with ideas and just sent this prototype for. for that logo basically. And I remember looking at it thinking that's got so many applications. You could recolor that in any way you absolutely wanted, do a combination of colors. It just looks, it's got the fang thing with the two protruding
It's
points
got the
on both
parallel.
sides.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. It was perfect, and we were over the moon with that logo.
Yeah, so the band formed in, was it 2016? Because it says that on Metal Archives, but you're saying it was maybe in 2016 the concept was born.
Yeah, it was sort of more the concept. I don't really count the stage of that era, and it is more like when we started fully gigging that I count Thrasherwolf as being alive. Really, of course, we had a couple of open mic nights, but we were still trying to find
Yeah.
our feet. Um, so when we sort of had a full lineup that I trusted, to a degree, we've worked for it. We did the rehearsals, made sure we had all the songs sorted, and we had a direction. That's when I count Thrasher Wolf as being born, which is probably why the shirts also say 2019.
Okay, there we go. That makes sense. So
Yeah.
how hard was it forming a thrash metal band? And where'd you go to school? In like London or?
It was Bishopsford Arts College,
Okay.
which was a high school. Because I think you over. How does it work over
So
in
it goes middle school, or it's middle school, high school, college.
Okay, I think for us it's primary school, high school, and then college, then university after that.
Yeah, well, okay, yeah, it's definitely different. Where we go
Yeah, I
straight into
think
college after high school.
I think our university is your college.
Yeah, yep.
So yeah,
Okay,
okay. So I went to Bishopsford Arts College, which
got
was
it.
a high school. Um, then I went to South Thames College for the A levels and all that sort of stuff. And I thought, you know what, I'm quite the arty guy, theatrical. I did the theatre studies, the creative writing, the film and media studies, that sort of thing. So I was always more into the creative stuff. Um, so I wanted to follow quite a creative career, and I don't know why. The one thing that really spoke out to me was thrash metal music. I mean, I don't know why I thought making money out of that was going to be a good idea, but um, but I think it was personally for the best because it's been an amazing project since I started it. I've done and met so many amazing places and people, um, and I found my talents as a songwriter and as a musician, and I'm I'm fully invested in making sure that Thrash Wolf becomes as successful as it possibly can.
Yeah, yeah. So how did you form that first lineup? And it's two lineups, right? In the history of the band?
It's really weird. It's like as soon as you get the first lineup, members keep chopping and changing almost
Yeah.
consistently until about 2022, which is where we found the lineup now. Um, I had a couple of my friends from college. I had another guitar player. My brother was the drummer. Um, who was just sort of finding his feet. He didn't really have any formal training. He just walked up to a drum kit and started doing the Slayer beat, and it was pretty on point. So I was like, this could work actually. Um, I had a mate of mine who I was teaching how to play bass guitar at the time, which was a bit of a waste of time and a nightmare. Uh, so, so I kind of fired the other guitarist and the other bassist because things were just not manifesting.
Yeah.
And I went on to join my band.com or bandmix or something like that. I found another guitarist, which is our guitarist now, Jack Saunders. Found a bass player, and together we sort of started on that first run of gigs together until COVID hit. And then everything at that point was like, right, everything outside is buggered.
Yeah.
So we might as well focus on our online presence. But in that time, we realized that, well, the bassist couldn't stay. My brother, the drummer, wasn't able to continue doing what he was doing, which was tough. Was tough for me at the time because I wanted it to be a really like, brotherly project. We were in it together from the beginning, but sometimes things just aren't meant to be.
Yeah.
Um, but as time went on to about 2022, we ended up finding our current lineup, which is well, obviously Jack from before, Raymond's, who came in and absolutely slays that bass guitar every single time he plays it. He's jumping up on the apparatus, on the amplifiers, on the bar. He's a proper old school thrash maniac, I
Yeah.
guess you could say. Like this, but he's so professional in the way he does things. He's really given us a professional angle and a look on the industry and as a band as well. And it's really we've really come into our own. And then he from there brought us the new drummer Zach, who, wow, we couldn't have wished for a better drummer. He's absolutely superb. He's logistically sound. His roots come from old school thrash metal as well, because his brother was a guitar player, introduced him to old school thrash, and from there he's absolutely lived it. And he brings that to I feel to the drum songwriting as well. But I couldn't wish for a better band at the moment. They're amazing guys.
So kick-ass, man. And I've seen a lot of the bootlegs on YouTube and stuff, and 100% what you're saying, it's just so there, and like that thrash energy, like the jumping up on the thing, and
Yeah.
it's really, really awesome. You guys bring the energy 110%. So I definitely want to get into the COVID thing. But in terms of your history, were you brought up on like old school thrash? Like when did you get into the genre?
Well, music was a pretty background thing for me in the first 10 years of my life, I'd say. But anything that sort of came on the radio, I'll just sort of like go, to and just sort of move on along. It wasn't until my dad sort of got his first stereo speaker, and before I knew it, things like AC/DC and Thunder and some of the most killer Steve Vai tracks ever would come pounding out of that stereo. And sort of remember hearing it and thinking, yeah, this is really cool. It was just sort of like everything was like proper 80s. You had Danger Danger High Voltage by the Electric Six on there as well,
Hell yeah.
which which I mean is such a weird track, but it just sort of suits that whole metal rock sort of thing that was going about at the time. I'd even vibe with like things like Adam and the Ants, to be fair. So it was I had a pretty
Nice.
wild
Yeah.
thing there.
Nothing wrong with that.
But I think it was 13. I'd come back from high school and I had my PS3 first time. I'd stick on Uncharted and just smash away. My dad had come home, he'd stick the stereo on and he'd head into the shower. It'd be blaring throughout the whole house. And I remember for the first time I really actually paid attention to what music was coming out of there. And it was Thunder. Devil Made Me Do It. And I remember thinking that that riff, that riff is sick. It's doing something to me, and I don't know what it is, but I want more of it. And the more tracks he played, it just got more and more. It was Moorish, I guess you could say. I wanted more, and so I inherited my first ever phone, first mobile phone, and a brick Nokia
Yeah.
6505, something like that, the 51, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And
Tracks.
I took it to school, and I realized my dad had left some music on there, and on there was Enter Sandman, Whispering a Prayer, Steve Vai, all the Thunder tracks I could ask for, and I just listened to it on repeat as time went on, and eventually I was like, Dad, I need an iPod. I need an iPod here. I got the iPod Nano, the with the little black
Yeah.
wheelie thing,
I used to
and
have one too. Yeah.
they were great, honestly great. And
Amazing.
I remember going onto the what was the iTunes store at the time and just
Yep.
getting as much music as I possibly can. The first I'd say proper metal record that I ever owned was the Swedish band Wolf and their album Ravenous.
So fitting.
What the I love that album so much. It was like my first foray into what maybe I wouldn't say extreme metal, but what metal could be.
Yeah.
This Swedish band who wanted to bring British metal to Sweden, and then they got massive and started playing Bloodstock and all that sort of stuff. And I really looked up to them at the time, and it just moved on from there to Metallica, to Slayer, to Exodus. And then I started getting into death metal because of my brother who was into like slam and death metal and extreme stuff like that. So I'd hear him play Extermination, Dismemberment in the other room, and
Nice.
before I knew it, he had Flesh God Apocalypse on, and I'm like, holy damn, that is so
Like,
cool.
this is my
And I'm
life
listening
now.
to Carcass, Flesh God Apocalypse, Dark Tranquility, and Arch Enemy, all those bands, and I was captivated by the entire musical genre.
So, so awesome. And then here we are now, ended up forming Thrasherwolf and then that. And then of course you talked about the Corona and COVID and stuff and how that kind of fucked over things. What was that like in the UK? Because I know in California, all the thrash metal
Mhm.
bands just started doing backyard shows. And even like all the bands all over the country, like we're like, okay, we're just doing this shit in the backyard. We're doing illegal basement shows. The scene went so far underground. Did the scene die completely and then come back after COVID? Were there any of those secret like underground basement shows?
I don't think there was any way in this country you'd have been able to have a background show or a backyard show, so to speak.
Yeah,
Because I don't know. It, I feel like it was a bit more strict over here, possibly, and where people are maybe a bit less willing to take the matter into their own hands. Unless, of course, you're a politician, and then you can have parties in Parliament during lockdown and apparently be perfectly okay.
of course.
You know.
Yep.
Mm. Um, but there was no way we could do anything like that. Instead, we did things focusing more on our social presences online, which I felt was a really good move. So we could do the rudimentary music videos here, where I was actually planning to do like a lockdown video of the Vortex. I set up the drum kit downstairs. Bill, we got loads of good shots of Bill playing the kit. The neighbors turned their telly up to like 90 volume so they didn't have to hear the fucking drum kit the next door. Um, didn't come to be, unfortunately, but because I discovered lyric videos and I thought, you know what, that might be easier to be fair. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't think there was any way we could do that. We focused on our online presence, and because everyone was inside and no one can go to work other than me because I work for the healthcare, the NHS, so I had to go to work during
Frontline
COVID.
worker.
Yeah, frontline worker, man. We help save people's lives,
Yeah,
and
through medicine and thrash.
medicine and thrash. Thrash is the medicine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, because everyone was at home at that point, just on their phones on social media anyway. If we focused on our social presence, everyone was going to be looking at us and what we were posting in the first place. So it almost worked really well because we released our first album during COVID in 2019, which was the perfect way to do it. Everyone saw the album. They couldn't get and like they couldn't move without seeing something about Thrasherwolf on their social media pages. So it really did work out well for us, I think.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Now, I want to get the timeline right for releases. So you guys never put out a demo,
Right.
but
Well,
you have the Blood Moon EP.
yeah,
But
I
that's
tried to
not really
bury that.
anywhere. Yeah, yeah. So like, wait, what the fuck's the order of releases? But the thing is, the tracks on that end up being on the debut, right?
Yeah. See, here's the
So
thing with
okay, so
the
what's
Blood
the
Moon
what's the
EP,
story with all that?
cheeky cuppa.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Cheers.
cheers, brother. But yeah, the Blood Moon EP was when we had the very, very, very first lineup with the two people that I fired. Um,
Got it.
I
Okay.
sound like Alan Sugar here, didn't I?
So
I
like
fired them
Mustaine.
straight,
Yeah.
straight out cold blood.
Yeah, yeah.
We went to the studio. I had no idea what the hell I was doing. I was recording guitars through a small PV amp the size of my fist. So the guitars were sounding so fuzzy, it was unreal. It was a professional producer, so everything was like mixed and produced well. It was mastered fantastically, but the five songs were in just such a demo state, I might say, that I don't know. I didn't feel comfortable it still being out there really. But I've actually my guitarist found a couple of old discs that we have of the EP, which we might um maybe upload at some point just to see people's reactions to the oldest Thrashable stuff.
Yeah, I think it would work if you maybe advertise it as a demo because that it seems like it was a demo that kind of,
Yeah,
turned into an EP. Um,
yeah. It was a full EP we tried to do.
yeah.
Um, but it was more. our chance to practice for doing the real album
Got
as
it.
opposed to anything
Okay.
else. So I could test the lineup, see how dedicated they were, see what we could find, see what we could learn, so that eventually, when it did come to doing the proper album, we knew exactly what we were doing. And luckily, our producer Andy Brooks, who's been with us since time immemorial, has always had our backs. He did the second album, he did the first album, A Thousand Eyes, and he's also doing the next couple of singles we're going to be releasing next year. Did I just say that
Great.
out loud? Whoops.
Oh, well, revealed here on Disturbing the Priest. Very, very awesome.
Exactly.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I do want to, say that he's doing a killer fucking job because that's something that stood out to me. A lot of these bands, you can see the evolution of their budget. You know what I mean?
Oh, for
And
sure.
and
Yeah.
their production, where you guys, it's like from the fucking start, it's like, damn, this sounds like extremely legit. Especially with a lot of like even more than a lot of the bands that a lot of people argue should be in the big four of thrash metal. So it's really, really, really awesome to see. And Andy, I'm not sure if he's, takes if he's looking for work, but totally shout out. Did you mention his last name? I'm not sure if he's taking requests right now or
Andy Brooks
Andy
or Andy Brooks.
Brooks. Yeah, killer producer, man. Like really, really
He's
good stuff.
absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I think it's Brooke, actually. I always get that mixed up and he kills me for it every single time.
Yeah, the
Andy
one
Brooks. Let's
chance.
put it
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm really glad you guys are working with them. Okay, so the EP comes out, and then I assume maybe a few weeks, a few months, you decide, okay, this just does not cut it. So I assume it really, really you guys dial it up for, and then the lineup change, right? And then you
Yeah.
put out the debut record, which
Yeah.
is fantastic. You guys are extremely tight on it. The
Thank you.
riffs are great. The production is really good. So how long, and including the EP, because the songs transfer over, how long did it
Yeah.
take to write that record fully?
Well, it's a weird thing. I write all the songs for Thrasher Wolf. It's I've always written songs in my spare time. I had an entire year where I was unemployed, a year and a half. So I spent the entire time playing video games and writing riffs. Really, it was a dream year and a half. Really, when I thought about it. Um, but it's more like I wrote a bunch of songs and thought, you know what, these songs here would be perfect if we stuck them on a record together. And I selected them out of the few, asked the band what they thought, and they were like, yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, we could do this, we could do that. But at the time, I wasn't very, I'd say, open to them changing them a whole lot. So I was very on it, which is probably why Blood Moon is 9 minutes and why We Are Revolution, the song, is 11.5 minutes long. Uh, because no one could tell me otherwise. No one was like, "Oh, you got to trim that down. You've got." I was like, "No, no, 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 no. This will show we've got balls as a
Yeah.
young band to bring out an 11.5 minute long track. No one's gonna fuck with us after this, you
Commit,
know."
be ambitious. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. If it's not been done before, do it. Why
Yeah.
not? What have you got to lose? So we I did that, and I thought, those songs would be perfect for that record, and it's still going on that way because we're working on the demos for album three now, the guides, and I did exactly the same thing. I set out 20 tracks that I thought would quite fit the record or the feel that I'm going for, and I said, look, guys, pick like 10, 8 or 10 out of these that you like, and we'll work on it together because I'm a lot better with that now, where I can actually listen to what people have to say about the songs, and I can improve them in that way. Because whereas my songwriting, I would say, has always been praised in that way. There are ways as a musician, as with every musician, where they can learn, improve, and hone their craft and their skills. And I am no exception. I need to hone my songwriting abilities for the best and make sure that album three is the absolutely most killer record we've ever done in our entire careers.
That's really exciting to hear, man. And yeah, it's also like when you write songs and riffs, they're almost like your babies, you know? And to have someone
Yeah,
else say, "No, you should change this and change this." It's like, "No, this is
yeah,
mine," you know?
exactly,
So I totally
exactly.
understand what you're saying. Now, I'm just like curious for that first like record. How old is the oldest riff on that? Because you're saying you were writing some of it in your spare
Mm.
time. Does it really,
Yeah.
really go back? Because I know, like you hear artists, who wrote some of their best riffs when they were like 14, and then transferred it over to like, and then you can hear it on Bonded by Blood and shit. But just out of curiosity.
Think it was about 2013, 14 that some of the oldest riffs on there come from. The main riff for or the verse riff for Vermilion Steel. Da 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 da
Yeah,
da
yeah, yeah,
da.
yeah.
That it was so
2013.
simple. It was so simple to write because it's just it's a chord decregression. If when you think about it, it's just going down the scale and then up to the next string and down the scale again. It was actually for a song at the time called Crossface Submission, which was the bassist at the time's favorite wrestling move that he'd invented. And I thought, fuck it, you know what? I'm gonna make a song around this and see what happens. But then the more I thought about it, the more I thought it's fucking lame writing a song about a wrestling move. So I thought, you know what? I can't go through with that. So I took the riffs and I put them together into Vermilion Steel, but I didn't have a name for it at the time. I just kept calling it Submission, and I thought that's such a it's a bit of a wank name, really, you know. So my brother of all people just sort of messaged me one day and was like, "What about Vermilion Steel?" I was like, "Where the hell did that come from?" And he was like, "Oh, I don't know." Hey, one second, Bill,
Oh, he's
where did you
here?
get the idea? He's here. Where did you get the idea for Vermilion Steel, like the song title? Castlevania. He got it from Castlevania. Well
Great
done, lad.
game.
It was great. Yeah.
That's so
Well, that's
funny.
excellent. I love that so much.
That's
Oh dear.
amazing, man. Oh wow. That's such
That's
a that's such
fantastic.
a funny piece of lore right there.
Yeah,
Um
I didn't even know that one.
that is funny, man. Great games too.
Oh, I love it. Absolutely
Now
love it.
so, you had 4 years between both releases. Now I'm just curious, did you start writing for the second release right after, or did you take maybe a year or two to just like play and just hone, stage presence and
Um,
tightness?
it was the same as before, where I had loads of songs built up, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to take a few of these songs and put them forward. I was still writing throughout the entire time. Like I didn't have a rest
You still have
from
material left over
yeah.
from the first.
I
Wow.
still had about 60, 70 odd songs I had in the bank.
Jesus Christ.
So
Not a
unless I
bad
found you,
issue. Yeah, not a bad problem.
granted, my writing has slowed down a bit recently. I think maybe I need to head back and rethink exactly where my mind was when I was creating some of the better tracks that I've got, just so I can just harness that feeling and energy and start getting back into the groove of it. Maybe I've taken a bit of time to focus on life a tad instead of writing, but
Life can get chaotic. Yeah.
it can, especially when you're nearly 30.
Mm,
God. But yeah, I took a few of the songs that I had lying around. I put it forward to the second album. I'd written a couple more. DBH was, of course, one of those songs that were from the back catalogue of songs that I had. Hanging House being one of the newer ones that I was writing at the time.
got it.
Um, so it's like a mix of my old mental state and my new mental state, if that makes sense, to create this sort of
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
variety
Yeah. The
of how songs.
Clash.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I feel like songs are so dependent on where this writer's mental state is at the time that you really got to grasp what you're feeling at the time and put it forward.
For
But
sure.
yeah,
There's so much that goes into writing that a lot of people don't realize. Like it's again like like you're saying exactly the mental state, not just sitting there writing. It's like, okay, I'm just going to write for 30 minutes a day. There's like this whole energy you have to capture. I think there's
yeah,
a lot more to it than just taking the
yeah,
time out. Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, you could be feeling something, and it's almost like you draw the tune from that feeling. Like there have been times where I've been utterly distraught and completely smashed down mentally, and I just started humming something because it sounded sad, and I thought that's really good. I'm like 3 hours from home. I need to get home and get my guitar in my hand now before I forget this. What's happening?
Yeah, you're just
Um,
on the voice memo, humming the riff and
yeah, literally. I hate doing that because it sounds terrible when I play it back. Uh, but yeah, but between album one and album two, it was more we were fixing those lineup issues that took
Okay.
more of a time. I already had the songs pretty much picked out in early 2020 after the release of the first album. So I went to the producer, I did some guides and got the rhythm guitars down, and I used that as a basis to show the other guys that this is the stuff, these are the structures, learn from it, write, do things that you want to do on the album.
Got it.
And then of course we had the lineup issues, and it was difficult enough trying to record and finish an album when you had to bring new musicians in, audition them, teach them the old stuff as well as the new stuff so that they can then get ready to record it themselves. And then we had the whole artwork thing and the whole needing shows, and then our management went under in at the end of
Oh,
2023. And it was one thing after another that just led to more time and more time. So eventually 4 years had passed, and I was actually worried that the momentum had gone, which that was a personal worry of mine. And then I remember Metallica waited 8 years to release a record, and then suddenly I didn't feel so
yeah.
bad. You know.
Yeah, you're not wrong, man. Yeah.
And we played enough shows to warrant keeping that momentum going, and all that sort of stuff. So I wasn't so worried. Um, but we've got a definite better plan for the release of album three, and maybe some intermittent singles in between, just to make sure people are, you know, not starving, but are still going to be hungry enough for the third album.
For sure, man. So what was the year where the lineup was finalized and there was no more issues?
2022.
2022. Okay, so 2 years before the newest record.
Yeah,
Things were all
absolutely.
set.
2022.
Okay.
That's when
Yeah.
Ray and Zach joined the fold, and we have formed the lineup we have now. Superb guys.
Great, great fucking lineup currently. So inside the Sickened Mind is, we're finally to the most recent release.
Yeah.
Killer fucking
Yeah.
shit, man. How do you feel like the material on this album stands out from the rest of the band's discography?
I would say that it has perhaps the best overall sound that we've got as well.
Agreed.
It has
Yeah.
that the dryness of the guitars from the mastering process, and the smoothness of the way the mixes are done. It really encapsulates the whole sort of old school thing we were going for. But then at the same time, the writing gives it that sense of variety. So it's not completely old school, but it's not completely new school. And it's got everything thrash under one roof. That's how I would describe it. And that's how we as Thrasherwolf wanna bring ourselves across. We're not just any type of thrash. We are thrash.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to bring forward. We don't want any little word at the front of it that pinpoints us in a certain direction. It's just thrash, like Mama used to make.
Yeah, fuck yeah, man. That is fucking great to hear. And just out of curiosity, how long did this record take to record? And how hands-on are you with the overall production?
I'd say actually recording it took the entire 4 years.
Entire
Um,
4 years.
because we did it instrument by instrument. So I did my parts first, and then we had to get the new guys in, train them up, blah, blah, what I said before. But it was only when they were ready could they actually record their parts, and so it was it was then late 2023, then early 2024, and it just we just did instrument by instrument as well, and then put it all together. And I think this album was only really done or finished fully in June of 2024.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
It's really crazy to hear that because of how well it turned out.
yeah, I was very surprised because I remember
Yeah.
being absolutely terrified. I was on a work nights out, just absolutely boozing, and I got the first master for GBH through, and I just remember I just sat there with my drink and my headphones on. Everyone else around me is thinking, "What's up with him? What's happening?" And I was just sort of sat there with the headphones, going, "Is it too dry? Is it okay? Does that sound too thin? Oh God!" I remember sending it back and forth to my manager and thinking, "Look,
Yeah.
does that sound okay to you?" I was manic. I didn't know whether I was coming or going. I was just so focused on making sure that it was better than album one because I did not want to move backwards of all things.
Well, it's so interesting for me as like a fan to hear that because it makes me appreciate the record even more because of the hell that went through making. Because it sounds like like with everything, I would have guessed it was the smoothest recording and writing process with the finished product.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? But
yeah, I know
that's
exactly what you
so
mean.
it's a miracle how well it turned out. So
Thank you so
so
much.
did you for 4 years were you just like renting a studio on and off? Were you using like Pro Tools, home software?
Andy has like all the possible gear you could ever need. He's got all the reampers, attenuators. I've got my own Kemper I could bring in as well. He had the Logic Pro, the entire massive desk. He was just an absolute pro from in every single way you could possibly look at it. And it was more we rented his studios by the hour, and he would sit there and he would do all the production, oversee absolutely everything we were doing. He would tell us if there was something we were doing that didn't sit quite right, and he would then suggest the little bits that he we could have done. It was up to us at the end of the day, but his
Yeah.
suggestions were always spot on. And there was never a time where I thought, nah, I don't really fancy that. He was just brilliant in every single way. He's the ultimate producer.
Yeah, that's really great to hear, man. And I'm really happy with how it came out. And I think, both records and all the singles are fantastic. And you saying that there's some singles on the way is really great and that we don't have to wait 4 more years, you know, is very, very awesome. You know what I mean? Now, as we wrap up here, I just want to know like what's you covered it a little bit, but what's the general future of Thrasherwolf look like?
The general future of Thrasherwolf is continuing to push this album as far as it can go. We have an entire UK tour coming up, as well as plans that we really want to get out to Europe and other countries this year, and perhaps even the States if we can afford it, obviously.
Would be
Um,
great. Yeah, and I can
I
always
would love
help you
that.
guys with promoters and stuff in the East Coast here, and which would
That would
be
be wonderful if you could just give our manager all their email addresses, every page you could possibly can. It'd mean the utter world to us. It really would. Um, but we're going to get the tour done. That's March till early May. We've got a ton of good shows and festivals coming up. But I can get rid of this poxy cough. Oh, um,
it's that time of the
we've
season.
oh mate, tell me about it. We've going to be working on the album three guides as well, and we do plan to have album three ready to bring out in the next couple of years. So
Fuck
we're
yes.
no more, yeah, exactly, no more waiting 4 years. We want to use album three as a means for record companies to be like, yeah, you know what, we're going to take album three on. Album two is enough to show record companies at the moment. I feel exactly what we're made of. So with any luck, they've seen the album two. They're looking at us. They've got their eyes on us, and as soon as we're ready to bring album three, we'll smash it in their faces. And I'm in general hope that at least one of these album record companies will be like, yeah, you know what, Thrasher Wolf, that we need to sign them now. It's
Yeah.
been in a few of the reviews as well. Like there's some people who just can't believe we haven't been signed yet, and I can't believe. I mean, I'm saying that it feels like a dream to have people say that about the work
I'm one of
because
these
I
people,
remember,
man.
yeah. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Honestly, really, thank you.
Yeah, and it's like the fact that you guys have gone through hell, and like unsigned and
Mm.
stuff, and the quality of the record is just it's
Mm.
phenomenal, man. It's really
Thank
really
you.
great. So a
Thank
hundred
you so
percent
much.
of any labels are listening or watching, it's like it's please fucking sign these guys.
Please, please
Yes, yes,
do.
yes. So, last but not least, what's the best way for everyone to stay updated with everything Thrasher Wolf?
The absolute best way is to follow our social medias: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Follow us on Spotify to give us those little number boosts, because they do matter, trust me. And most important of all, um, keep your eye on www.thrasherwolf.com. You'll see all of our upcoming shows, all of our merch releases, and all the links to all the album stuff you'd ever want, along with a few really cool pictures from the shows that we've had.
Hell yeah. Daniel, thank you so much for joining me, man. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much for having me on, man. It really, really means a lot.
Of course, of course. And it means a lot talking to you, man. And I cannot wait for this next release. My name's Brandon Battick, and this is Disturbing the Priest.